Welcome to our 6th Yellow Brick Cinema Talk. Today we're going to be talking about big changes YouTube has made in 2025 and why right now is the best time to start on YouTube. With over 10 years of experience and 6 million subscribers, we at YBC know a thing or two about how the algorithm works. I'm Evan, and today we're joined by Sean and Jason. So Jason, what do you think the future of content creators on YouTube is going to look like?
Gratuitous violence and lots of inappropriate behavior. Realistically, we've seen the notes from Google and from YouTube regarding their core updates, where they've been talking about a prioritization in authenticity. And I think this takes form in a couple of different ways. First off, one of the challenges, obviously, for any faceless utilitarian music channel is YouTube is kind of going back to the way it used to be, where there's much greater emphasis on, someone communicating with an audience. It's one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast series. The other interesting element is, in recent years, there was quite a trend towards what is now called retention editing, something designed, where every X number of seconds, there's something being thrown at you on the screen to hold your attention. And we're now seeing that style kind of go out, and there's a reversion to a much more naturalistic, stripped down form of editing, which I think is good. This probably has something to do with just the changing demography of who's using YouTube, but also a reflection on what platforms people are consuming YouTube on. As more and more people consume YouTube on TV, for instance, what might work on a screen that's 10 inches away from you, a phone screen, that may not necessarily translate to something 10 feet away in your living room. But I would say that those are probably the biggest changes in the quest for greater authenticity. Is people are really looking now for more of a connection that they emotionally resonate with.
Now, do you find that these connections happen with newer channels or older channels? Do you find that it's easier maybe to grow a brand new channel? Like, there's probably a lot of people listening that maybe have wanted to try YouTube and haven't dipped their foot in. They might think that it's so much heavy weight going on and the YouTube scene that they'll never be seen. Do you think that there's a possibility for people now more than ever to start a YouTube channel and grow from that?
Well, I would argue right now, literally right now is the best time that it's been in the last 10 years to create a new YouTube channel and get it out there. And this can be substantiated pretty easily. One of the changes that was introduced to the platform about a year ago now. If you go into the landing page, one of the things that happens is, what's above the fold. It used to be a lot of, just very, very heavyweight creators. And two things have changed. One is several of those creators, really big names, they've retired. They've gone through their cycle. They succeeded, went through their lifespan, and now they're done. And that creates gaps in the marketplace. It's the cyclical nature of YouTube channels. Those platforms have been around for 2 decades now. The second thing is, in my view, artificial, which is there are now above the fold slots, which are deliberately featuring, typically it's 2, sometimes 3, on the landing page that feature small channels, small creators, where the prioritization seems to be more about, are you interested in a particular subject and niche within that subject? That is a higher priority than, I would argue, subscriber count, view count, etc. It's just the weighting of these variables has changed. So if anyone's listening to this and they're thinking, should I create a new YouTube channel? Well, the correct answer is you should have done it 6 months ago. But since you didn't, do it now.
It's funny you mentioned that because about a year ago, obviously you'd see all your main page. We browse YouTube every single day. We look at other channels. We look at how to improve. We look at what the trends are. So we see what's going on YouTube on a daily basis across the board. And what I've noticed about a year ago is on the search page or your homepage where it would give you suggestions, it would always give you suggestions of people that have millions of views or millions of subscribers already. And they would already have hundreds of thousands of views before they hit your recommended page. Now I go on my recommended page and it's a mixed bag. I've never seen it more diverse than it is now, where you have creators that have 300 followers and I see their thumbnail and they have sometimes really nice thumbnails. And I actually watch the video and I watch it and I go, wait a second, this person only has 100 views right now? I'm like, am I getting in before it gets like 1 million views? I'm really confused. So it is significantly changed over, say about 8 months or so now, the landscape of how YouTube has changed. And so, yeah, I definitely agree. If you're going to get into YouTube right now, this is the ultimate time because they're actually weighing a system where they're allowing new creators to come in. And if you have good content, if you're actually showing some realism, authenticity, and you're really showing yourself, or whether you're creating, whether you're talking about something, whether you're building something, it's the perfect time to get in and grow a channel on YouTube.
And where it gets interesting, I think, is the challenge that large channels like ours face, which is, okay, in that landscape, how do you stay relevant with, Yellow Brick Cinema is a veteran channel with a large subscriber base. And of course, we've been around for, over a dozen years, and we're a faceless utility. So, this podcast is one thing that we're doing right now to introduce greater authenticity, so that you get to know the people behind the curtain, so to speak. It's also why, for those of you listening who saw that video that we did recently where we said, look, we're not getting on the AI bandwagon. I think everyone kind of has to choose what side of the fence they want to be on with that one, because there are certain AI channels that are exploding and doing incredibly well on YouTube. We've decided that, that's just not for us. And that might turn some people off, might turn some people on, that might be like, yeah, we agree. But that's the decision and the direction that we've taken. And I would recommend personally, for any other, channels that might be similar, large faceless utilitarian channels, either music or otherwise, you might want to explore doing different product offerings, podcast series, etc., to see if you can get that kind of audience engagement, because that can translate then across the rest of your metrics and what you normally offer.
Yeah, I've noticed that, some of the comments I've seen, we've gotten great comments and feedback so far of how we've been switching up our content a little. Our live streams are typically the same that they've always been. We want to still provide that same, relaxation music. People come, they don't come here to watch us talk necessarily and, have like walk around to and then talk to the camera. They come to us to listen to music, but I feel that there are so many other channels that can do the same thing nowadays with AI, and everyone's competing against this AI war. And just bringing the same style music, but that extra bit of realism to it. We are real people and showing real lives. I think that's really, it translates to a lot of people, and it will translate to a lot of people here soon. And I think it's good to get ahead of the curve. But yeah, I think if we do the AI stuff, you're just joining a bunch of other people that are doing this, and you start to blend together. And the podcast is great. People get to know us personally. They can comment to us. They can feel like they're talking to a real person. They can make suggestions, and it's great. It's great for everyone. And you still get the same experience that you previously did listening to Yellow Brick Cinema.
There's another thing that this might ruffle some feathers, but you know what? It's where I stand. And, let's face it, if it ruffles a few feathers, that might also get engagement. One of the core things about any YouTube channel, and this actually does also apply to, faceless music channel, is there has to be a reason for this channel to exist. I really do believe in that. There has to be a core ethos for an audience to latch onto and go, okay, that's why this is here, and that's why it's worth my time. That matters. Maybe we don't want to admit to it on a conscious level, but certainly on a subconscious level, it matters. It makes a difference. And that's something that I firmly believe in. If you're looking at creating a new YouTube channel, or if you're looking at the landscape as an existing channel and you're going, okay, what do I want to do right now with the changes that Google and YouTube and audience tastes and what have you, the landscape is always shifting. And you've got two choices. You can either be a trend chaser, or you plant your flag and you go, this is what I stand for, take it or leave it. And that latter approach is the one that I believe makes far more sense. Because then you stand for something, and people can decide whether or not it's worth it.
Yeah.
To patronize.
100%. YouTube used to be the let me copy what else someone else is doing, and let me just do that exact same. Like, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years ago, it used to be, even more recently, it was always, you'd see a thumbnail, Mr. Beast would do one, and then you'd see 1,000 other creators doing the exact same thing. The same thumbnail, they just replaced the face. And because they know that people would click it. And that was such a big trend. But now we're seeing that slowly fade away. And it's just a new landscape now. And it's quite interesting. So yeah, I understand, like what you're saying, it's ruffling some feathers, I guess so. But yeah, it is the truth though.
It's a simple matter of, let's use this genre. Okay, faceless music. Cool. What genre? Well, in our case, relaxing music. Cool. Okay, drill down, into each niche they're in. Sleep, meditation, yoga, etc., etc. Okay, great. Why does this matter to us? That's important. And this is the element that AI cannot replicate, because by definition, nothing matters to AI. And there are some people who believe it doesn't matter. Relaxing music is relaxing music. I argue the opposite of that, which is you can tell. You can tell when relaxation music is made by a machine versus when it's made by a human being. Candidly, it's one of the issues that I have with a lot of modern music production, where they quantize beats and everything is auto-tuned and what have you. It's one of the reasons I tend to listen to older music that's more analog, is it's the inherent flaws that make it a bit more human, that make it interesting. And I believe, and again, not everyone's going to agree with this, I believe that 10 years from now, we get to the year 2035, which faceless utilitarian music channels are still going to exist on this platform. And I believe it's the ones that stand for something that an audience can then latch onto and go, yeah, I agree with that. Because that's human nature.
I mean, that's assuming we make it to 2035, which every day is a new experience. Yeah, it is definitely a faceless, channels. If we could make the faceless channels more personality driven, and we can make it, I lost my train of thought. Sean, I'll let you take it here. I completely lost it right there.
Well, I think right there is an example of the reality injected into YouTube content that Jason's talking about, right? Where there's this, we keep using the word authenticity, but there's this like, hey, this is actually three people talking. And when three people talk, someone loses their train of thought, right? And the same thing in music, right? This is actually music someone's making, and it sounds this way because that's the way the person who created it made it sound. So I think on a really simple level, part of the X factor of our channel, as well as any art that would have been on YouTube this year or in like 2009, is that, hey, this is something someone made and they want to use this platform to help other people experience it. So with every piece of music on Yellow Brick, this is something that someone made, but partly one of the people on this call. And you know, you just can't say that about things that are programmatically generated. There or channels that are superficially created. So even if it's not AI music, even if it's someone trying to slap together a channel quickly, like circa 2020. Okay, I'm going to take these visuals, I'm going to take these music assets, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do these SEO search terms and stuff like that. It's a passionless channel, and no one behind the channel wants the audience to experience the content, just chasing views. And that's I mean, like in our discussions with YouTube, that's something we talk about. It's sad. No one really likes that at large scale. Because if you flip it and you say, hey, as a member of the audience, there's something you like, you implicitly want to believe that the person who made it on the other end of that experience likes it too. The last thing you want to find out is like, no, they don't like it. They just want you to watch it. They just want your attention. And they don't really even know what you're watching because it was made programmatically or just slapped together. So that's I think that is probably the future. And this might sound grandiose, but people still go to see the Mona Lisa, even though you can look at a picture of it, like a JPEG of it, or you can look at something like it. But people still go to stand in the room with the real thing, and I think that's the way a lot of art is. And certainly music, be it live experience or something that we've made.
You know, that's probably why a lot of people love watching walking tours. It's a real person walking through a city, and you get to see the real life of the uncut, unfiltered, just walking through part of the city. And I think those do really well because of that fact that it's made by a real person. You get to see real people. It's real life. It's not edited a bunch of different cuts to make it look special. It's just real, raw life, shot really well. And I think that's a very big category that's grown over the years. Walking tours, the outdoor boys. I thought we brought that up a couple episodes ago. These long cut, real organic style videos is very important to the future of YouTube. Now that, I always told people that you can make the most boring video look special by just a bunch of cuts and zooms and transitions, and it could look special. You'd be surprised on what I filmed a lot of videos in my life. And had him edited and saw the editing process of him through. And it's amazing from how boring a shot is done to what it looks like after. And I think kind of that is almost turning over the opposite way now. Me and Jason discussed a while back as he shot some video for, I believe it was a musical or big artist, and shot with really nice cameras, shot with the top of the line gear, and the views weren't as great. And then he just took out his cell phone, filmed it with his cell phone, and boom, there was a couple million view hit just from his cell phone versus all these nice cameras. And I think people just love that really organic experience. And I think we're going to start seeing more of that. I mean, I even scroll now on, X, on Twitter, sorry, that same thing, on, sometimes on TikTok or maybe sometimes on Instagram. And it's just like, I almost feel like I'm being bombarded with artificial content. I don't know what's real. I don't know what's fake. I don't know what to believe anymore. And sometimes it's almost nice to just see something that's real, raw, and just kind of almost boring. Like it almost feels relaxing. And I think that's the greatest approach that we can make is we want it to be boring because we want to relax you. Essentially, we want to make boring videos, but not in the sense that it's like you want to immediately turn it off. It's to calm you, almost to make you feel like you're not watching it.
Yeah. I mean, to your point about artificial activity, I mean, it's estimated now that over half of all internet activity is artificial. So the dead internet theory is no longer a theory, it's reality. And that's only going to increase. And as a result, you turn on any aspect of the internet and it is just an absolute bombardment. So it's created a backlash effect. And I firmly believe creators who can still deliver compelling content without relying on some of that retention editing trickery, and who can, really have a very focused message as opposed to a scattered spray and pray approach. I mean, I'm curious if you guys have done this. This is something I really enjoy doing. Is I'll go on YouTube and watch like newscasts from 40 years ago when I was a kid, or like last night I was watching a video of Carl Sagan testifying to Congress about climatology. And I was like, wow, for 15 minutes they're letting a scientist speak, not interrupting him, no screaming, no craziness. I was like, this is the world that I remember. What happened?
Well, I often go and watch videos of, I'm talking much later than that like 1910 videos shot from like Los Angeles, London, and New York, where the video cameras are just barely, or even more recent times, in 1990 eras, 1980s. And I see how everyone interacts. I see how the world has changed so much since then. It is quite crazy how it's like dopamine overload for us nowadays, versus back then. Everyone either just stood and didn't talk, or they talked to someone next to them and they read a newspaper. It was a very, it almost feels dystopian to think about that world back then. Like, how did they function back then? But apparently they did really well. Now it's like chaos now. I think we're going into deep topics, but it is. And I think we got to rewind back a little bit and go back to that calmness, but insert it in a way into this chaotic world and bring that calmness to it.
Well, if you want the microcosm, it's watch someone swipe through Instagram stories. So don't you do it yourself because you don't realize how fast it is. Just watch someone else do it. Just say like, hey, play your phone. Okay, go on Instagram. See what, or like to an extent, YouTube Shorts. That human behavior is the revealed preference of overstimulation, where you go bang, 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 and you always know there's more. So it really starts to control one's thought patterns. And the pace of cutting you're talking about in YouTube videos a few years ago is the precursor to that, right? Where it's like bang, 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 every 2 seconds, cut. And it becomes hard to articulate a coherent message. So listening to someone talk for 15 minutes, it's actually the way conversations function and presentations. And long form has really been awesome. The long form podcasts that have gotten longer, and yet audiences want more and more and more. I feel like that is where humanity is in his comfort zone. Constant stimulation. No one really knows what happens, right? There's never been a time in history at scale where people haven't been able to hold a coherent thought because of overstimulation. So, from an academic standpoint, it's quite interesting. Like whoa. But we are definitely at a point where we don't know what this will do at scale. So, in another sense, it's a little scary.
Well, I'm kind of like, I sometimes think doomsday mindset. I always think like, all right, if all cellular connection went out and everything went out, could I survive over like everyone else around me? Like, am I gonna be like disturbed? Because I have this. I always think of like, I look sometimes around the trains. Everyone's looking down on the phone, and I walk down the streets, and I almost feel like that instinct survivor technique it's built in our DNA is almost disappearing. I feel like there'd be mass panic. People wouldn't know what to do. They need I need to call this person. And I think that's the downfall, that if that were to ever go out, that system, and I'm also, you're going to hate me, Sean, for this, but I also am one of those people. I'll go at night and I'll have my cell phone in one hand, I'll have a tablet, and I'll be scrolling on my tablet, looking at my cell phone, both simultaneously. Sometimes I end up on the same app on both things. I'm like, what am I doing? But I often think like, if the world just went down, I think that's the long-term effect. You're going to see the real cause and effect of overstimulation is now people don't know how to survive. Now people don't know what to do. Now people are in panic mode. They can't call their Uber. They can't call their Grab. We have Grab over here, but they can't just call their Uber Eats. They can't. I have to go out for food. How do I get there? I don't have my maps. It's kind of good. It would be a just really crazy world, and I think that's my main worry, that if something did happen, which is very possible, that's what would be one of the effects of it. That's a very hyper scenario of something, but it's a really realistic scenario.
Yeah, it's not far-fetched at all. I mean, you just have to look at various plans regarding what happens if EMP weapons are used, and you fry infrastructure and all electronics in an area. Heck, one coronal mass discharge from the sun, if it's pointed directly at us, and we go back to pre-industrial era immediately. The only reason that hasn't happened yet is because when the sun belches, it just hasn't done it in our specific direction to such a strong degree that it would cause that. But, at some point, mathematically, that's bound to occur. So, to your point about being able to survive in an analog world once everything gets shut off, I admit, on one hand, it does concern me, because I remember the analog world, but there are generations of adults now that have grown up in a completely digital world where the majority of the communication that they have done is not face-to-face, it's electronic. And that worries me, because I think it was Mike Tyson who said, a lot of you have clearly grown up in an era where, you're careful what you say, because if you say it to someone's face, you're going to get smacked in the mouth. It's changing the way that we as a society and we as a species interact with each other. On the flip side...
Okay, sorry.
Well, just on the flip side, it would be interesting to see what happens if there were a temporary pause in what we consider to be the modern world. A notorious example of this would be the New York City blackout that happened a while back, and it led to a mini baby boom 9 months later. Kind of interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up. Is we're seeing population decline. I think could be blamed on a couple. I mean, I don't have any kids myself, so this is hard for me to. I mean, it's easy for me to speak on because I understand it, but I also Sean's on the other side of this, so I'd love to hear his explanation on this too. But we're seeing this like population decline because people are having less kids, and I think maybe that two reasons, in my opinion, is one, people are isolating themselves more. They're keeping to themselves. They find, instead of finding a partner to talk to and be with and, grow, they're finding that their partner is now a cell phone or a tablet or a PC that they kind of attach to. And two is almost social media. Social media is pushed, they show these, oh, you can go here, enjoy this life, and don't do it, just work. And it makes you, well, actually, I guess three reasons, and also financial, is now there's such a financial burden on people in order to survive. I mean, especially in America, it's just the cost of having a child is very expensive, and it's not as affordable, and so it scares people. And they see the cost of, they don't want financial burden. They don't want to be, have a kid in a little small apartment. And there's a lot of different variables going on, and my reasons I don't know. I have no idea my reasons. I think maybe mine's all the above. But I mean, I'd be curious to see how Sean's perspective of things, because he does have children himself, so he can maybe speak more differently about this than me.
Well, I'll tell you, it's interesting to watch what they gravitate towards and watch how they deal with emotional stimulus and stress, uncertainty. It's really interesting to watch how they gravitate toward music, how music can have a transformative effect on a kid, and then you realize, well, I was once that age, but I'm still running essentially the same hardware. I don't think anybody's replaced my brain between then and now. If they did, I have feedback for them. But yeah, it's like when kids' interests. First of all, the thing that kids dominate your focus, right? Because if you're a parent, your kids need you to handle all kinds of things, and sometimes it'll be in the future, but sometimes it'll be right now. So they really anchor you in a very good way, in a very fun reality. So there's that, but then they're also this example of how people are, because they're these little people and they're running around doing stuff, and everything is right there for you to see because you're paying attention to it. So overstimulation. I'll give you an example. Is that I look at movies and cartoons and things like that very differently as a parent than I did as someone who was only consuming them myself. Now I'm looking at them on behalf of someone else. And I notice things like we're talking about, like how quickly they're cut, or the emotional pivots of a film or a TV show or a short cartoon. And this can induce otherwise absent emotions. You can, if you watch a sad movie, you'll be sad. If you watch a very frenetic movie, you might get stressed out. Same with a YouTube video, right? So you see how much control we have over our lived experience with what we allow in. Part of your job as a parent is certainly with millennials, the oldest parenting thing in the book is kids can't watch R-rated movies, things like that, right? That I grew up with, and you realize how valuable a filter that really is. So as it comes back to how we exist in this technology and content-enabled world, and what that means for all kinds of things, like as meta as population numbers, but then as down to earth as like the rest of your day if you're listening. Kids will kind of tell you, because you can just look at them and see, well, this kid was happy playing outside, and then watched the sad video and isn't happy anymore. That's happening to adults too, right? That's happening, but it's this microcosm that's extremely useful for us to learn about ourselves. So I would look forward to a world where AI search capabilities are used to serve real content that feels like it to us. This would feel like 2008, 2009 on YouTube, where it's just a person, camera, and some kind of reason why they're making this video. But the AI search capabilities allow that video to find its way to the right people in the audience versus keyword stuffing and things like that. And then get outside, or have a long conversation with someone that doesn't get interrupted by a content platform, fast edits. Really enjoy all the different gears of life.
Yeah, as I see, I think we all can agree that we would love to push forward to that authentic life. And it's so hard because there's so many new technologies coming out that are really just kind of disrupting that field. It's kind of bringing both worlds to one. Meta, as you may or may not know, just launched glasses that you can see. You could see text messages, WhatsApp. You can look at maps just through the glasses, and nobody can see. You can film stuff through the glasses. And this is just the beginning. And it's kind of what I was talking about a couple episodes ago when we were talking about the future tech is, we're now in this going to be in blending this world of realism, but it's going to be inauthentic realism. It's going to be we're going to have a world where it's going to be, you're going to wear glasses, and like I said, there will be, let's say you want to read an exam, or the bus is crowded with a lot of people, and you could just press a button and it'll basically black out all the stuff you don't want to see, and maybe put on a relaxing like waterfall and make you feel at peace. Maybe that will be the way of future relaxation, is using the tech for that purpose of blocking out. Will it be? I probably will just be an overstimulation of 50 different apps at once, but I would like to think that it will be used for, real purposes. But on the flip side, I think that we're just, as creatures, I think we're just always pushing the limits of what we can do, and we're just constantly chasing that. And I always try to look back at when I was living in the 90s, and I think about how my childhood was. I was like, man, it just felt so much better than it now. I couldn't imagine what it's like being a kid now. Maybe it's that same feeling for kids now. I think that maybe they'll look back at this time when 20, 30 years and be like, man, I really lived in a crazy time. But yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting future, to say the least. And hopefully we can find a blend where we can put some relaxation in some tech, where we can have that blend of realism but also authenticity. But virtual, yeah.
You just tapped into something big, which is the experience of a kid right now. There's much less gravity that would suggest it would be like the experience of another kid. You see what I mean? So if you're Gen X, millennial, even some Gen Z, there are still these common tent poles of one's experience where you see the same things and you can relate to each other on some kind of level. You can abstract from your own experience what another person's experience might be like. As we progress, gravity is going to go away. So the average there will be less and less of a conceptual horizon of what is average across a generational coterie. As we experience this could be completely different. As we within the same meta ray band. They could be living completely different lives, completely different cultural touchstones. And a lot of that is it's like how you fill the cracks of meeting someone new, or in a conversation where you're trying to relate on some specific topic. It could be in school, it could be in work, and you're creating these little bridges based on your shared experience. So, like, that goes out the door. You could have completely different lifestyles. You could have two people who live next to each other in a very urban environment, who have completely disparate but deeply rooted lives. Then you could have people who live on two neighboring farms, and they're not outdoorsy at all, right? They don't engage in nature at all because they're really engaged in whatever content world is being projected across their devices, be it wearables or just screens or whatever. And so you have to be really intentional about things like who take care of yourself, how you relax, how to, and the technology is evolving faster than we are. So again, this is why we keep coming back to, we care about relaxing music, because we find that across our lives, both as listeners and creators, there's something that, pun intended, resonates with us about it. So we keep doing it through all these different iterations of YouTube and then device technology and stuff. We keep doing this, and that's probably not going to change from like an audience POV. The song that helps me ground myself 5 years ago is probably going to be able to help me do the same thing 5 years from now, while everything else is changing.
I mean, that kind of brings me back to Jason's point about dead internet theory. I think the more, I guess, sinister side of me almost wants that to kind of explode in a way where there will be a time where people, for instance, there will be a time where people will be live streaming, for instance, and they'll be talking to a chat that they think they're real people, but the whole chat will just be bots. Bots will be engaging in this person. They think it's real, and it will become so overwhelming for people, where people will just want to live they will be so over internet. They will be so over it. It will be overconsumption. Nothing in their eyes will be real. And in a way, I kind of want that to happen, because it will make people realize that maybe we should go back to, the starting grounds. Why? Maybe it will bring people together more, and they'll be like, what's the, we're just people living on this floating planet, and it'd be like the hippie phase back in the day, where people are just chill and and hanging out. And I didn't live that long, so I don't know really what went down during that time. So, but yeah, it just would be maybe that would be a better time if once that little bubble explodes, where people just want to go back to it. I think that's what we need. What I think that should maybe happen, because then people can enjoy the realism of life, and realism of music, realism of relaxation, realism of just everything, and maybe bring back the whole values of traditional lifestyle, and but with technology, just not overconsumption of it.
Well, I can tell you where it's probably going to go if I put on my futurist hat here. This is going to sound pretty wild, but I want to preface it by stating that these are my ideas. I didn't come up with this. This is just sort of generally what you see in the futurism community, and I think it's pretty accurate. You will see something of a bifurcation, where you're going to see people going, yeah, I want to have a more analog life again. But you're still going to have a tremendous drive in technology for shared connection, and where it's going to lead, inevitably. Step one, we start recording thought. This isn't as wild as you think it is. I mean, we already have the ability to control artificial limbs with thought. It's in its infancy, but within our lifetimes, the ability to record thought in a method that can be parsed audiovisually is almost certainly going to happen. Step two is when things start getting a bit more wild, which is the ability to be inside an artificial construct state where you can share a virtual thought reality. So step one is interesting because the ability to record thought means that Thoreau once famously said that most people go to the grave with the songs still in them. Well, how many people, for instance, have brilliant musical compositions in their head or movies in their head, etc., but they lack the skill, time, training, etc., to put them on paper, to bring them to life? Well, now all of a sudden that becomes much more feasible, where you can just literally record thought. And keep in mind, the storage medium already exists. DNA is a phenomenal storage medium for information. We have the ability to encode information in DNA right now. The technology already exists. It's just extremely expensive. But keep in mind that DNA is ACTG versus binary, which is zeros and ones. It means the amount of data that can be stored is vast. So step two, which may happen within my lifetime, probably will happen within Evan's lifetime, is the ability to essentially share dreams, share a dream state, where you can go inside a virtual construct of an alternate reality, and you're able to share it with someone else. And the lure of this is the idea of greater connectivity. Instead of a dead internet, it's you're actually sharing the most intimate part of someone else, which is their thoughts. That's when things start getting really wild and they turn into an episode of Black Mirror. But it opens up all sorts of interesting questions, not the least of which being around intellectual property rights and copyright and what have you. But if you want to know what the brave new future of human interactivity is going to be, because the genie's out of the bottle, we're not going to regress as a species back to a pre-industrial state unless we have like a World War III, mass EMP, something like that. But that is where technology inevitably is going to take us within the next century.
All right, get your tinfoil hats ready for this one, because I have my own thoughts of the future and what it holds. And you touched on some really interesting points of sharing thoughts and now these are my own thoughts, so you can call me. I'm sure someone has reiterated this in some way, shape, or form before, somewhere else in this world, of course. But I truly think. First, I think you're right. I think we're going to be able to, let's say, Neuralink is obviously progressing. This is gonna happen. More companies are going to do this. This is going to be a normal thing, I think. But and then you see the rate of robotics, humanoids, what they want to call it. Let's say I want to go to Germany, or let's say I want to go to New Zealand. Let's say I want to go to Japan. If there's a robot in Japan, I could essentially be in that robot's body and walk around Japan instantly, anywhere in the world. I can go it would be like time traveling through the mind of a robot. You just feel like you're in the robot's body and moving around, and then you can transcend back into your body. I think that's something that will be happening in our lifetime. Yeah, there's different levels to it where there's feels and sensitivities and stuff like that. But the ability to go into some robotic body of, and it sounds crazy, I think that's going to happen within our lifetimes 100%. It depends on if you die tomorrow. So I hope everyone here is good for at least tomorrow. But I do also think that there will be an option in our lifetime that you will be able to live forever. I think I think we will have an opportunity to somehow live forever. I know it sounds absolutely crazy, but as you mentioned, Jason, the DNA contains, you could put a lot of data on the DNA. We are coming to an area where there's a thing called Moore's law, where it's every 2 years or 4 years, technology or information or doubles, if I'm not mistaken.
18 months.
18 months. Okay. Yeah. So, but with AI, we are seeing rapid. It's unfathomable how fast. People don't realize. Like, I research a lot into this. I look into a lot into AI technology, a lot into the future technology, and it is absolutely insane what is coming out, and people don't even realize. And we're living in this world where, the information hits us quick, but the technology is hitting us quicker. Just today, I saw a robot from I forgot what it's called, a company in China. This thing was doing backflips and they couldn't knock it down. I'm like, we are so screwed. But yeah, it's actually a very interesting new world. So I don't even know how we are going to. It might be like that movie. It's either going Idiocracy, the movie Idiocracy, which is a great movie. I mean, the smartest man alive, I think, had 100 IQ. Or it's going Wall-E. It's going Wall-E way, or it's going Elysium. If anyone knows any of these movies, I'm seeing these are definitely. I feel like a society is moving towards like either one of these directions, or all three of them simultaneously. But yeah, very interesting direction, and we just have like, how are we going to pivot for YouTube even for that? How are we going to even pivot for Yellow Brick Cinema? How can we merge Yellow Brick Cinema into that? Because it's going to be needed, because I'm stressed out thinking about what the world's going to be like. I mean, it seems normal right now, but what's working in the background is far superior than what we can imagine.
Well, I think you're right that it's going to be those directions, but all of them, and many more. And what Jason's talking about, these experiences could start to become very different for different people. And so then there could even be an extent where, in which a real experience, kind of like driving an old stick shift car, where if you want to do it that way, you can, but you're going to have to learn the skill and find the parts and stuff, versus, I think we've talked about this before, a new minivan could smoke a Ferrari from the 80s, a 308 GTS. Most new minivans could just, like, if it's got a 6-cylinder engine and high compression ratio, you just smoke it, and particularly on like a slalom and stuff. So imagine that's real versus quote unquote artificial experience. Seeing the Great Pyramids in real life versus looking at a picture of them will abstract that forward and say, going to the Great Pyramids yourself, or porting yourself into a robot body, or what have you. But okay, how does this get back to what is the future of YouTube for YouTube creators in the here and now? And all of this gets back to a dialogue around authenticity, what is real. So if you're going to express something for any reason other than you want to, you got to really start thinking about why you're doing this. And if the idea is, well, I don't like making this video, but I think other people might like it, then you're in uncharted territory, and you might have some heuristics about why this is going to work, but you're gambling. It's luck at that point. Versus, if you make a new video, or you make a new channel, or you make a new song, and it truly is something you want to make, you're at least on the road, right? You at least have an audience of one. and then maybe that audience scales. But I think that in this future where there's infinite possibilities and we're probably going to be living discretely different lives, that audience of one is so important, right? You have to be doing things that at least resonate with you, because if they don't, why are you doing them, and why should those things resonate with anyone else?
I wholeheartedly agree. I think that, if you're on the brink of starting and this is going back to our original conversation, if you're on the brink of starting a conversation, on the brink of our starting of the conversation, there's not a better time right now to start a YouTube channel about something real, about something authentic. I think it's great for a few different reasons. I think it's a great for, first off, YouTube is promoting it. YouTube is promoting young channels. YouTube is promoting authentic content, and thirdly, I think this is the most important one. And even though this is more for personal reasons, but I think it's great for historic purposes. So you can look back, so you have something to watch of a time where things were very different and fast, and we thought we're fast right now. Imagine, think of how we look at maps back in the day, MapQuest. We go, how did we do that? How did we read maps now? Now look at this. Now this is another time point where we're going to be looking back and saying things that. So I think this is probably the best time to start a YouTube channel and grow and create authentic content and really bring realism. And that's what we want to do. And that's what we're trying to do. And this is where this conversation is started from. This is why we're continuing to do these. It's to talk to you guys, to understand, so you can understand us, so you can understand YBC, what our future is, what our goals are, where we're headed, and where we plan to go. And we want your help into deciding where we go, what you want to see, what you want to hear, and but also bring in that authentic relaxation. So does anyone have any last words? I don't know if I made you guys fall asleep, but does anyone have any final words here?
Oh yeah, okay. What's the word? Okay, so comment, Jason. What's the word?
Vicuña.
That's
if you listen all the way through, you know what to comment.
And if you could spell it, you were spelling bee champion right there.
Yeah. If you can spell that correctly, and Jason confirms, then you win a prize. And we don't know what the prize is yet, but let us know. Let us know, and we'll figure it out.
Claire will give it to you. So ask for Claire. Ask for Claire. Say, Claire, where's my present? And then
we have to. I wonder if we have to qualify. You may win a prize. Because this is neither a lottery in certain U.S. states, nor is it a promotion. So you may win a prize. By the way, the prize may be good job. I may have just given you the prize right now.
Yes,
good job.
It's like one of those warning labels at the end of the commercial. They're like, this product may not go. This causes death. We have to let you know that the consolidation prize might just be a like, but it's something. Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you guys for joining this very unique perspective on YouTube's future and the future of humanity and the future of everything. As we all turn into transcendent humans or robotic humans, I guess we'll see you next week into a new topic where we'll talk about something else. Maybe something completely different. But thank you guys. Sean, Jason, I appreciate it. And hopefully we'll have some more people next week.
Good times.
Sounds good.